Well, for some reason you're asking yourself, I wonder what that Tom and Jerry movie that came out this year would be like without Tom and Jerry. Just see Coming to America 2, man. Or I'm sorry, Coming to America. Great. That should be your first clue. That's how they did the title. That's like a way of doing a title that's like 10 or 15 years old. And that's really what this movie feels like. Except not even movies 10, 15 years ago, I feel like would have better writing than this. Hell, the original Coming to America has really great writing and really great performances and good people around it. And in a lot of respects, so does this. It has a lot of great people around it. The director did Dolomite Is My Name and Black Snake Moan. The writer, worked on Blackish, which is hit and miss, but I mean, the hits are really good. Don't believe me, watch the Purge episode. That's always the episode I introduce people with, and it's great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Anywho, a lot of great actors and performers. Most of the people from the last film have come back. Just about everyone, honestly. And then, you add on top of it, Wesley Snipes, who's always super funny as well, and Leslie Jones, who again is hit and miss, but the hits are great. This should be really good, and it starts off like, a little awkward. Like, the timing's a little off, but you see, like, the idea they have with the jokes and stuff like that, and then it gets lame. Like, okay, well, that was stupid, but whatever, let's see where it's going, and then it gets annoying. And then it gets to where you're clicking on the remote, seeing how much is left, and it's funny, when it started, I was telling myself, oh my gosh, on Amazon Prime, it doesn't even cost anything. You have a Prime account, I mean, you seem to get it, so it's like, well, that's nice, even if it sucks. It shouldn't be that bad. That's pretty bad, guys. Like I said, I mean, it's like all the live action stuff from the newer Tom and Jerry film that came out, except there's no Tom and Jerry to distract from it. It's like, it's just that type of writing and those jokes and the awkward timing and the music that never shuts up. And what's so interesting too is how inconsistent so many of the really charming characters from the original are, and I think that was one of the big shocks to me, is that you have the setup for this film, if you've seen the original, Coming to America. I'm assuming you have, if you're going to check out the sequel. But, in the first one, this guy from a faraway land, goes to seek a bride in America, breaks tradition doing so, and comes back, pretty much like a comedic fairy tale. Like, it meets this woman, they instantly fall in love, and then they go and he breaks tradition and they get married, so on and so forth. Now you have kind of the flip version of that, which is not a bad idea. It's that he needs, Eddie Murphy's character needs a male heir in order to take over, for the throne. And he has 3 daughters, so he finds out, though, that he has a bastard son, kind of through this super uncomfortable, shaky, it's like, Jesus Christ, like, I don't know, in 10 years, I don't know if this is gonna fly, I don't know if it's gonna be found that funny, even though it really wasn't that funny anyway. But so, he has a son, a long story short, this bastard son, and he goes to, because that's what they call him throughout the whole thing, the bastard son, your bastard son, over and over. So they fly there and say that, it becomes King Ralph, because it's pretty much stealing from every movie like this ever made, and say, come to the country, be the prince, and soon you'll become king, and you'll marry, all that stuff. They bring him over, it becomes Princess Diaries, where they have to train him how to be a prince, how to be a proper prince, and everything. Then this guy from the land of Nextoria, you guessed it, it's right next door to them, it's right next to their like, that's the writing in this, that's what it's like. Wants to come over, and he wants to, I think this was the person that had the daughter in the last film, the one they told her to bark, and she barked, and said, okay, it doesn't want that, and she's still barking, yuck, and he wants to find some way to, make a connection and be a part of the family and stuff like that, or else he's gonna use, like, his army to take over. And so this bastard son is brought in, and he's gonna be he's trained how to be, a prince, and seeing things from a different point of view. And at the same time, you have these 3 daughters. One of them has really been training for a while to be queen, and I mean, if you can't predict every single goddamn thing that's gonna happen in this, you have not seen a movie since 1995, because that's like exactly everything that happens in this. It's weird. I've seen 2 comedies that, where the people have not been that funny, and they all feel like throwbacks to the 90s, even though I think Coming to America, it was that late 80s, I think, or mid 80s. So you have a sequel to an 80s film that's trying to be a 90s film. It's so bizarre. But all of that, honestly, I wouldn't mind if it was funny. If it was funny, and these are funny people in this movie, and charming people. But so many of these jokes do not work and feel really dated. Okay, so here's an example, something that could be funny. Leslie Jones is the mother of the son in this, of course, mother of the son, the son that travels, back there to become prince. And they're there and they're looking around. Of course, they're all blown away by, how large everything is and fancy. And she says, "Oh, just like the Kardashians." And it's like, and, or, but without, or except for, there's an and, it's almost like the first rule of improv. Yes, and, like add more to it, but it's like, that's it. That was the joke. Just dropping that name. And then it cuts, and that's the end of that scene. Like there's so many jokes where they just sort of say something and you're waiting for the joke. You're waiting for the punchline too. It's like, no, that was it. That was the one-liner. And there's what I was talking about with the inconsistency with the characters. First of all, I think the son in this, the one that's going to travel, be the prince, is really poorly developed. I think that was maybe one of the bigger shocks in this, in terms of talking about inconsistencies, because he goes back and forth between saying, "Hey, I'm this, young man who's going to work really hard, and I'm not going to be a nobody. I'm really going to, fight for everything. I want to be taken seriously. I want to, not be looked down on, for my race or anything like that." And as soon as he flies to this place, he's suddenly like, "Whoa, look at that. Oh, what's up? Hey, my mom's. Like, he acts like, a dummy, like, most of the time. And he's just acting like, "Yeah, I'm living the high life. Yeah. And that was not the guy that was introduced. And Leslie Jones is kind of the same way. You got, when she's introduced, she's, it's like, again, whenever the first movie came out, it was like the 80s or something like that. By the way, creepy de-aging effects in this, man. Ugh. It does not look good. It looks about as good as the CG lion effects. But so you got Leslie Jones in this. They didn't have to de-age her, too much. But you have her, like she's at a bar, she's partying, she's got drinks in her, and whatever. Okay, and this is kind of the Leslie Jones shtick. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then you cut to her in modern day. And she looks like she's got her, sort of talking, got things together, just trying to keep order in the house and stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, well, she, life happened and she matured and everything. Okay, again, as soon as she travels to the, the foreign kingdom, suddenly she's just like, "Hey, what's up in there? Oh, what's going on?" Like, it's just completely different, a totally different character. And they go back and forth consistently, so I really don't know what these people are like. So the comedy of like the fish out of water stuff, it doesn't work because the majority of it takes place not in Queens, but I always forget the name of the place. I apologize. I keep saying far off kingdom, foreign country. It's like I just forget the name of it. I apologize. But, and it's funny because that is maybe the one thing I like in this, is that the production design of this movie is really impressive. Like every costume, every room, every shot of this place looks impressive. Like they put a lot of thought into how this film was going to look. But sadly, sorry, my cat's meowing. But sadly, they didn't edit it very well in a way where you can actually see everything and you can take it in. Like it's almost like a variety show, because when like there's a good bit in the opening. We got James Earl Jones, and he's on his deathbed. And he says, throw me a grand funeral. Oh, I will, Father. And he said, in fact, do it now. I want to see it now. And so they throw him the funeral while he's still alive. And that's a funny bit. That's a good bit. And they bring in, like Salt and Pepper, the original Salt and Pepper. And they're singing, what a king, what a king. It's like, this is cute. Okay, sure. It keeps going. They keep bringing in other dancers, and sometimes it's funny. They have like Morgan Freeman narrating his funeral. Like, that's funny. That's great. That's using a celebrity well. But then they just kind of keep the act going, and more dancers come in, and there's kind of a lot of scenes like that where somebody will walk in and be introduced in a royal way, and then there'll be like a song sequence or a dance number or something, and they look good. Again, they're edited it's way too choppy. I mean, I really want to see the dancing in this, the costumes and everything, but these scenes will just kind of happen, and they feel totally out of nowhere, and they don't really suck you in. It's not something where it's like, oh, hey, this is fun, I want to get into this, and maybe that's because I can't really get into the characters that much, or this, very cookie-cutter story. And on top of that, I was talking about inconsistencies with the characters. Eddie Murphy's character in this, the whole first film was about him going against tradition. He's the rebel. He's gonna go and decide, the way he's gonna do things and everything. And in this film, the whole thing is him being bound to tradition, and I can't, hundreds of years of tradition, I can't go against this, I can't blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not at all the character from the first film. And it's a shame because there's several scenes where you can tell Eddie Murphy could be really charming in this. And Arsenio Hall, they're both very funny and very charming in the first film, and you feel like, man, if they had a good script, they had a good story, that wrote them really well as in the first film, they would just nail this, and this would just be so easy to make them likable. But because it's so standard and so boring and so old and so not funny, it just doesn't work. So, yeah, I didn't like it. If the thumbnail of me going, didn't give you a good indication, I really didn't enjoy this film, and it's a shame because I really liked the first one a lot, and there's so many good people behind this, and I just don't know what went wrong. I don't know where it went south. Again, even at the beginning, it's like some of the, scenes that don't work. It's like, well, okay, but I see what they're going for, and, maybe it's just an awkward, again, bit of editing or way they said the line or whatever. It'll get there. It doesn't get there, man. It only gets worse. It just gets worse and worse. So, yeah, I apologize, man. I just could not get into this at all. I shouldn't say that. I got into a little bit at the beginning, but it never won me over. Even the scene where it's like you got Eddie Murphy, older, and everything, that's fine, but he's supposed to be having like this fight with his daughters, like with his bow and everything. And he's supposed to be showing off these incredible moves, and they couldn't even get like a stunt guy to shoot far away. They just had to shake the camera a lot and do a lot of this editing where it's just laughably bad, and it's not meant to be funny. It's supposed to show like, yeah, he's really got these moves down. It's like, no, it's just really bad editing. It's a really cheap effect. The movie itself brings up about like, oh, Hollywood movies, yeah, aren't they lame? Oh yeah, especially like sequels made years later, like, haha, isn't that so? Like, why don't they just leave the original alone? I mean, when the bland reboot is bringing up why bland reboots don't work, you got a problem. And they're really, really right about it. You can make those jokes, you can do self-satire, but you have to put a spin on it. You have to add something new, and this just does not add anything new. This just feels so old. So many of these jokes are just so old. Nextoria, man. That's the one. I think when I actually heard that, I said it out loud. I was like, Nextoria? Are you kidding me? And there's so many jokes like that just like, you almost see what they're trying to do, but they just did not take the effort to actually make it funny. It was almost like tell this joke that you heard in a bar while everyone was talking and the sound was really low and you had to guess what the joke was. That's what these jokes feel like. Well, it comes from a place, next Doria, because it's next to them. I don't know. That's my guess. Like, that's what this whole movie feels like. So yeah, I didn't like it. What'd you think? Did you enjoy it? Did you feel it had some good callbacks to the original? Did you feel that it had the comedy of the original? It had the warmth of the original. The only scene I think I legit liked, I guess without giving it away, there's a scene where he is... where in order for him to relax, he goes back to mopping without going into too much detail. And I thought the way they handled that felt very much like Akeem. That felt like Eddie Murphy's original character. Everything else just felt... it just felt phony. It felt forced. It didn't feel, very heartfelt. It didn't feel original. It felt just... very, very manipulative, like in the worst way, where you just feel like, okay, well, we're pushing this good message because we got these great laughs, and it's like, but you don't have the laughs, and even the message is just so friggin' old. I mean, like Disney films, man, like Disney films from the 90s were making these points. So, like I said, wouldn't matter if it was funny, and it just isn't. So, what did you think? Did you enjoy it? Do you think I'm totally wrong about it? Do you think this was just funny from beginning to end? Or did you think it was okay and I'm just being too hard on it? Or, man, did you think it sucked as much as I did? I just wasn't for me, man. It wasn't for me. But let me know your thoughts and I will see you next time. Take care.